Hi, good morning, everyone. Hopefully everyone did well on their test, and I look forward to going over it with you when you get back, when I get back. And like I said, don't stress if anybody needs a retake, and we can go over it and figure out what day is good for you. All right, so this is the next unit we're starting, and it's on volume and surface area. So we're going to start with volume. It tends to be a little less involved, and since I'm not there physically, maybe the easier part. Okay, so we're gonna have to calculate the volume, and we're just of three-dimensional shapes. Okay, so today we're just gonna do two shapes, um, and that'll be the volume of prisms and cylinders. Okay, and there's a couple things you need to know about these shapes. You got to be able to identify them, not you know based on looking at them at a picture, but you'll have to be able to identify them so you know what formula, because each one of them has a different formula that we're going to use. You don't have to memorize them; it's on your formula sheet. So make sure you have your formula sheet um, out when we're doing warm-ups and with your homework. Okay. Um, so let's start off with the essential question: how do I find the volume of a prism and a cylinder? Now, volume is the amount of water or a liquid or a solid or whatever, something you're going to fill up a particular shape with. So there's certain rules about a prism. Okay, a prism must have two. Let's see, we got a pen going here. Two bases. Okay, that are congruent, and we remember that means what? Equal. Okay, and they are opposite of. I'm going to add here each other. Okay, that means they're on the opposite ends of each other. And the base is not always the bottom, meaning it might be laying on its side. Technically, it is the bottom and the top, but it might be laying on its side, like this particular figure is laying on its side. So it doesn't necessarily mean that it's the bottom of the shape as you see it. Okay? Now, we use that base to be able to name it. So the shape of the base is used to name the solid. And in this particular case, this is a rectangle. Might be a square prism, but chances are that this is not exactly, even though it looks kind of square. It's a rectangular prism. Okay, so we're going to have the different kind of bases we're going to have will be a rectangular, okay, base. Could be a triangular base. Okay. Um, Circle, no, because that would be a cylinder. Um, Another type of prism might be a square base or also a cube. Cube is a type of prism. So those are basically the kinds of. Oh, what happened there? Those are basically the different kinds of bases that you're going to see. Okay, so a rectangular prism, okay, has a blank rectangular shaped base, and the three dimensions that are important are going to be length, all right, width, and the last one would be height. Okay, and those are what you're going to see that the rectangular prism is the easiest one to actually figure out. Okay, so you're going to need the length, the width, and the height, all right, to figure those out. Now, there's one important letter that you're going to see in your formula sheet, okay, and that is this, and it's a capital B, okay, capital B. Sometimes we just call it big B, okay. Big B generally stands for the area of the base. So if your base is a triangle, you're going to have to substitute in the formula for the triangle for big B. So that's where it gets a little tricky with the formulas. Big B is not just one particular measurement that you're going to get while you're doing it. It's actually something that you have to calculate, kind of similar to needing one of the legs or the hypotenuse in Pythagorean theorem. You're going to have to calculate that. It's not going to be given to you, chances are. All right, so the formula for the volume of a rectangular prism is the area of the base times the height. Okay, so here's the formula. V equals capital B times H. Now remember, capital B is the area of the base, which in this is length times width, because it is a rectangle. So in other words, we can also substitute in the formula sheet. We can substitute for big B and write what it actually is. And I'll show you that on a rectangular, a triangular prism as well. Okay. Now, the units for volume, remember in area we said they were square. All right. This is cubed for volume. We write them as units cubed or cubic units. All right. So let's look at this example. Find the volume of the rectangular prism. Rectangular, so that means this base is rectangular. Okay. With the length of 13, a width of 19, and a height. So let's go. So here's the problem. The height generally is from base to base. So if I stood this thing up, okay, like this, this would be the height. Okay, so the height of that would be from here to here. Okay, so that would be 18. But since it's laying down, it's multiplication. So at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter where you put them because you're just multiplying the three of them together. Okay, so the length, this would be 18. Okay, from the height, the width would be, one would be 19 and one would be 13. All right, and we kind of follow these steps right here when we're going through and finding it. First, we really need to identify the shape, because if we don't identify the shape, we don't know which formula. If you look at your formula sheet, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different formulas that we're going to use for volume and surface area, for volume and surface area, so 12, 2 of each. So you need to be able to identify the shape. So the shape of this particular one is a rectangular prism. All right, so we've identified the shape. The next thing you do is write the formula. So the formula on your formula sheet says the volume is going to be of a prism. Okay, so we got to know, that's the other thing, the reason you need to be able to identify the shape is you got to be able to look on your formula sheet and know which one to use. So this particular one says length times width times height. But in our notes we wrote big B, okay? Because I like to stay consistent instead of just springing big B on like a triangular prism and then you're like, whoa, whoa, what is going on there? So big B is always going to be the area of the base. See, that's what volume is, you know what I mean? Like if you're pouring something in here, you're going to fill up the very bottom, the base. It's going to cover the bottom of the base, you know what I mean? Just like this, okay? And that's kind of the area. And then it starts to fill up, you know, starts to fill up, fill up, fill up, fill up, fill up. And that's where the height comes into play, all right? So, but another way to write this is just length times width times height. All right, so then we're just going to substitute in the values. Volume equals 13 times 19 times 18, okay? And we're going to do the multiplication in your calculator, and you should get 4,446. They got a unit? Yep. Inches cubed. Don't forget, inches cubed, or the units are cubed, not squared. All right, so the next shape we're going to have is this cylinder, right? Again, we have two bases, right? This one here. Let's see if I can color this in here. Oh, I'm going to need something smaller. Right, and then there's one on the bottom that it's sitting on. Okay, so a cylinder is a solid whose bases are two congruent. What's the shape? Now remember, we identify these prisms and cylinders with the shape of their base. Obviously, cylinders are only going to have one type of base. And again, they are opposite of each other. Okay? A cylinder is similar to a prism, okay, but its bases are circles instead of rectangles or triangles. All right, so again, we're going to find the area of the base and then multiply it by the height. So the formula never really changes, big B times H, but what does change is the big B, because different shapes of the base will require different formulas. Okay, so again, just think of it as finding the area of the circle and then finding how tall it is, okay, because that's going to be the H there. And then this is going to be big B, right? So the area of the base of a cylinder is the area of a circle, like we just said, right? The area of a circle, pi r squared, okay? So big B times H, which equals, if we substitute in this formula for big B, this is the formula if we get. If we look on our formula sheet, it says volume equals pi area of a circle squared times the height. Okay. Now remember, just like we did when we're doing irregular shapes, the test we just took, we square the radius first. Order of operations, right? We square the radius first. Bonus. All right, so let's go over this example. So find the volume of the cylinder with a radius of 21 inches. So let's label this thing. Now remember, the radius is half of the diameter, so that's 21. And remember, again, now this can would roll away or whatever this is because it's on its side. Remember, if we stood it up, right, it would be standing up like that, kind of. Sorry, that's crooked. Maybe it's because I've got Rome on the mind and the Leaning Tower of Pisa. Anyway, all right, so the height is 7, right? So again, identify the shape. Cylinder. All right. Find the formula. Again, the formula is going to be the same. Big B times H. But when we substitute in the base formula, which in this case is a circle, it's going to be pi r squared times H. And then we substitute in the values. Okay, so we get pi, now r squared, right, which is 21 squared, times 7, which is going to equal pi, all right, 21 squared in your calculator, 21 squared, 21, let's see, 21 squared is 441. All right, so pi times 441 times 7, 441 times 7 equals 3,087. Okay, and then we're going to multiply that times pi times 3.14, and that's going to equal 9,600. Now, it's not going to be exact. Don't get hung up on the decimals. I'm just going to round to the first decimal, 9,693.2. Remember, cubed. Is this inches? Yes, inches cubed. Alright. Alright, so we covered a rectangular prism, a cylinder. Now we're going to talk about a triangular prism. Kind of looks maybe like a tent, maybe a Toblerone candy bar. Again, two bases, right? This one and this one. Again, this is laying on its side, so it's not standing up on its base. So remember, big B, what does big B stand for? Big B stands for the area of the base. All right, area of the base. And we need to identify the shape of this base. The shape of this base is a triangle. Okay? And so we need the formula for the area of a triangle. Okay, and we know that the area of a triangle is 1/2. Now here's where it gets tricky. There's another B here. That's right. Big B is the area of the base. Okay? Little b is the length of the base. Okay? So you need to make that distinction. Big B is going to have a formula contained within it. Little b is just the length. So in this particular case, right, little b is right there. Okay? The length of the base. Big B is actually the area of this base. Okay, so that's big B. That's big B. That's little b. Okay, that's little b. So we have to make that distinction when we're using the triangle. The triangle is a tricky one because it does have those two b's. Okay. Now be careful. There are two different prism heights. Triangular prism heights. The height of the triangle, and the height of the prism. This, okay, that is the height of the triangle. Okay, this is going to be the height of the prism. Okay, that is the height of the prism. Two different distinctions, two different B's, two different heights. That's why the triangular prism can be the tricky one. All right. So you see here, this is they've used these little symbols here, right there. See that? That means the height of the triangle, and then this one means the height of the prism. Okay, and then we have this. Okay, is big B. All right, so in other words, area of triangular base. Okay, now identify the shape. We already did that. It's a triangular prism. All right, so again, we got the formula, which, see how our formulas are all the same, but within that big B, it means different things. So that actually means 1/2 base times height of, I like that, triangle versus the height of the prism. Little p there. Okay? And then we're going to substitute in the values. Alright, so we're going to scroll back and forth. Now, let's do it up here. The height of the triangle, alright, is 1/2. Let's use a different color here. Let's go 1/2 base times height, right? Okay, so this is going to be the area of the base. So 1/2 times 7, so 21 times 0.5 or divided by 2 is 10.5. All right, so that 10.5 is the area of the base. And then we still have to multiply it by the height, right? So we're going to have, what do we do? Let's start this over. 1/2, we had 7 times 3 times, what's the height? The height of the prism, remember the height of the prism is right here, and that's 11. All right, so that times 11, so we know that was 10.5 times 11. Punch that in, and we get 115.5 inches cubed. So we've gone over those three shapes. You have some homework to do, classwork, depends on how far you are along right now. Take a look at that, work on that, and I'm going to leave the answers with the sub. You can check that. Maybe I'll leave our instructions to go over the homework answers in case you have any questions. You have a warm-up tomorrow, but I won't, since I'm not there, just practice, do your best on it. I'll see what the grades are. If it's good, we can move forward. But also, if you look on, if you guys are familiar with Khan Academy, tons of resources there. If you go on Khan Academy, I think we even said it, at least I sent a thing out to send it up in class. Just Google whatever the topic is, right? So volume, whatever the notes say, the title, volume of cylinders and prisms, and it'll come up if you need any extra instruction. Again, you can always ask Miss Lipton or Miss Champagne, who's going to, actually, Miss Lipton's not going to be, Miss Champagne. She's a math teacher, and she'll be glad to help you out. Anyway, have a great day, and we'll look forward to seeing you on Monday.